What's up, Richard? Timmons here. Now, here is my throwback segment where I talk about the films that turns 10, 20, and 30 this week. Alright, the films celebrating their 10th anniversary. We, of course, got the new one out now, but 10 years ago to this week, we, of course, had not the first one, but the Hunger Games sequel, Hunger Games Catching Fire, which I, of course, already did my review for that when I was talking about like Hunger Games films and all. Now, I thought this is maybe the best out of the franchise. I thought Catching Fire was really fun. You know, of course, the performance by Jeff Lawrence was great. Josh Hutcherson. We of course had we had like Woody Harrelson, Don Sullivan, with new additions such as Phil Seymour Hoffman, Jeffrey Wright, Sam Claflin. I mean, talk about really terrific performances. The late great Phil Seymour Hoffman appeared in this. It was a really decent follow. Of course, the first film was a $1 million hit and did really well. So they went ahead and decided to fast track the sequel, which was a really decent one. So not a bad flick if you guys haven't seen it. Far better than the new one, that's for sure. But anyway. Now, other films turning 10 this week. We got Delivery Man. Now, this stars Vince Vaughn. It's actually a remake of a Danish movie called Starbuck, I think it was called. And this is actually from the same director of that. If you guys don't know much about the story here, it stars Vince Vaughn as this slacker named David Wozniak, who drives a delivery truck for his family's company and is content with a life of meritocracy. However, when he learns he is the biological father of more than 500 offsprings, and many of them are suing to learn his identity, he decides to hold himself accountable for his actions. And now you also got some other cool cast members, like you had Chris Pratt in this, Kobe Smulders, Burt Robertson, Bobby Monahan. This is actually a really nice little charming film. Vince Vaughn really was terrific in this. Burt Robertson was great. Like Vince Vaughn's chemistry with Chris Pratt was pretty fun to watch. I mean, of course, this was pretty much like before Chris Pratt became, I guess you could say, before he became a bigger star. Of course, this was like pre Guardians of the Galaxy, Jurassic World, and stuff like that. Also, yeah, not a bad little film if you guys haven't seen it. Now, also track 10 is the movie called Philomenia, which is from director Stephen Frears, based on a book here, and it tells the true story of Philomena Lee, who's 50 years search for her son and a 6 months effort to help her find him. Now you also have like Judi Dench, Steve Coogan was in this. This was, of course, from the Weinstein Company, so there's that. But it wasn't a bad little film. Really decent, charming. I believe Judi Dench got an Oscar nomination for this, if I'm not mistaken. Because at the time it was cool to pretty much not Weinstein movies at the time. But yeah, not a bad little flick here if you guys haven't seen it. Now, films turning 20 this week. We got Alejandro G. Inarritu's film, 21 Grams. Now, this stars the likes of Sean Penn, Naomi Watts, Danny Husey, Benicio del Toro, Charlotte Gainsborough. And if you guys don't know much about the story here, the film's plot is about consequences of a tragic hit-and-run accident. Sean Penn plays a critically ill mathematician, with Watts playing a grief-stricken mother, and Del Toro playing a born-again Christian ex-convict, whose fate is sorely tested in the aftermath of the accident. The three main characters each have a past, present, and future story thread. Now, of course, this actually did score a couple of Oscar nominations. Like you have Benicio del Toro and Watts both nominated for Best Actress and Best Supporting Actor. Naomi Watts will, of course, go on to reunite with Inarritu again for Birdman, which, of course, won Best Picture. This is a really a really terrific film. Of course, Alejandro G. Inarritu, who of course go on to do other stuff like Babel, Birdman, um, The Revenant. What was that Spanish movie he did last year on Netflix? I forgot the name of that, but he's done some really intriguing stuff. And 21 Grams is really intense. Definitely has a bit of a Traffic vibe here. Um, I believe this was like on Reach's first like English language film, so he did a really good job with there. Of course, the chemistry between Sean Penn and Naomi Watts was great. I mean, if you guys have not seen 21 Grams, give it a go. It's a really decent little flick. Also turning 20, we got Gothika, which stars the likes of Halle Berry, Robert Downey Jr., Penelope Cruz, John Carroll Lynch, Charles S. Dutton, and Bernard Hill. The film follows a psychiatrist who finds herself incarcerated in a penitentiary in which she works and is accused of brutally murdering her own husband. Now, of course, you have Halle Berry, Robert Downey Jr. is always great. This was not a good film, in my opinion. I've always this movie was not all that scary. I was completely always I'm always bored by when I first saw this. I mean, good performances by Halle Berry. Downey is always great, but yeah, I was not a fan of Gothika. I mean, it actually has its fans, but I'm not one of them. All right, also turning 20, we got Oldboy. Now, of course, this is a South Korean neo-noir mystery thriller from Park Chan-wook and is loosely adapted as an adaptation of a Japanese manga of the same name and follows the story of Odiso, who is a prison in a cell which resembles a hotel for 15 years without knowing the identity of his captors nor his captors' motives. When he is released, he finds himself trapped in a web of conspiracy and violence, and his quest for vengeance becomes tied with romance when he falls in love with an attractive young sushi chef. Now, of course, they did do a remake of this, which actually got released about 10 years ago. I'll probably talk about that next week. Of course, that was directed by Spike Lee. Josh Brolin was in that. Not a bad. That remake got so much hate, but I didn't mind it so much. Now, of course, the original is brutal. Actually got re-released in theaters this past August. It is really intense, very violent. Like it is a really cool revenge story. So if you guys never seen the original Oldboy, give that one a go. Like if you want to see something very like one of the most violent Korean films I've ever seen, yeah, it takes it to a whole interesting level there. All right, now another film turning 20 this week. So many people trash on this, but it's more of a guilty pleasure of mine. Also turning 20 this week, we got Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat. Oh man, I cannot believe this turns 20. This is of course loosely based on the iconic Dr. Seuss novel starring Mike Myers as a Tyrell with Alec Baldwin, Kelly Preston, Amy Hill, Spencer Breslin, Dakota Fanning, Sean Hayes as a fish. Yeah, listen, for this movie is dumb. I always loved it. I don't know, something about the Cat in the Hat always. Maybe I was pretty young at the time when I first saw it, but I had a fun time with it. I mean, hearing Mike Myers do the voice of the Cat in the Hat is always fun to listen to. Using his like Shrek persona as well, I thought was really cool. His like chemistry with like a very young Dakota Fanning and Spencer Breslin were both pretty cool. I mean, it's not a great film at all. And of course, it was I believe this was a flop, if I'm not mistaken. And this was also the last time we got a Dr. Seuss live action adaptation, by the way, because of course, after like the movie did not do so well with audiences, critics, Dr. Seuss's widow said, "Yeah, none of my film like Dr. Seuss's estate does not want to do like live action adaptations of their films anymore." Someone said we end up having like animation stuff like the Grinch animated film, we're supposed to be getting a new Cat in the Hat anime film in the future. I don't know when that's coming out, but yeah, that's like I'm one of the rare folks who actually quite like the Mike Myers film. I mean, like I said, it's not a great film, nothing like that, but it has some fun, memorable moments, like the Panada scene. I mean, of course, years later, this movie would get like pretty much get memeified. Like you'll see lots of Cat in the Hat memes nowadays. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty much a guilty pleasure of mine because I used to always get a kick out of it. I mean, I do always like the set designs that he put out. uh, Mike Myers as Mike Myers as a Cat in the Hat was just really fun. You know, the late great Kelly Preston was great. You even had like a Paris Hilton cameo, which Paris Hilton in a kids movie. Okay, cool. But yeah, Jimmy, it's a fun flick. Like it's not great, nothing like that. It's very cheesy, yes, but I've always had a fun time with it. So that's just me. All right, also turning dirty. Wow, we got maybe one of Robin Williams' best films of all time, and that is Mrs. Doubtfire, directed by Chris Columbus, who of course directed the first two Home Alone movies, the first two Harry Potter films. Of course, you have Robin Williams, who plays this divorced actor who dresses up as a female housekeeper to be able to interact with his children. And of course, you had like Sally Field, a very young, like you had Matilda herself, Mara Wilson playing one of the kids, Pierce Brosnan, Harvey Fierstein. What you not love about Miss Doubtfire? Robin Williams, man. I remember when he passed away back in 2014. Not gonna lie, that I wish I had done YouTube at the time because I definitely would have been more like writing about how great Robin Williams was. Like he was just a comic legend, you know. I mean, and this film is just terrific. Like Robin Williams really plays Mrs. Doubtfire perfectly. I really don't think could see like I'm all cool with remakes and everything. Like remake The Godfather if you want. Remake I don't know Star Wars and everything. There might be some films I'll be like, yeah, that's definitely one you should not remake. I kid you not. I would rather see a remake of The Godfather over a Mrs. Doubtfire remake because I just cannot see anyone else playing Robin Williams Mrs. Doubtfire because he is Mrs. Doubtfire. Like of course I know there's like a Broadway version, cool and everything. Um, but yeah, Robin Williams just plays this role perfectly. Definitely one of his most iconic roles. His most iconic roles to date. So yeah, I remember they were supposed to do a sequel years ago, but I was but after like the sequel pretty much tarnished after the passing of Robin Williams. I mean, Robin was just so iconic, man. Like not only Miss Doubtfire, like what you talk about, going all the way back to Popeye, Mark and Minnie fame. Who just doesn't love Robin Williams? Like he was just comic gold, and this is definitely arguably the best film he's ever put out. And I believe he also got like a Golden Globe nomination and all. Really good flick if you guys haven't seen it. All right. Also turning dirty, we got the film We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, which is based on a 1987 children's book and tells the story of four dinosaurs who travel to present day and become intelligent by eating a brain grain cereal invented by scientist Captain New Eyes. The voice talents include the likes of John Goodman, Jay Leno, your Bart Simpson herself, Yeardley Smith, Martin Short, legend icon Kenneth Mars. You also had cooking icon Julia Childs. Walter Cronkite was in. I mean, talk about cool voice cast here. Now, of course, you can see they were trying to, also turning not 30, but turning I believe 40 or something like that is also The Land Before Time. And of course, that back in like the 80s, they were trying to capitalize on the success of Land Before Time. So they decided to give us another talking dinosaur film. And of course, this This movie also got released in the same year as Jurassic Park got released too. And We're Back at Dinosaur Story is nowhere near as good as, say, or as a classic as The Land Before Time or anything. But I've always found this movie to be really charming. Like, it's really one of the most underrated, appreciated anime films there is. I mean, talk about a great voice cast from John Goodman to Julia Childs. I mean, this had a who of voice act talents in it. I mean, if you guys have not seen We're Back at Dinosaur Story, give it a go. Not sure we can find nowadays, but it's a really decent, cute, charming film. Although I used to always thought this was directed by Don Bluth for some reason. It was, of course, actually produced by Steven Spielberg, so it definitely has that, like, Land Before Time, because he also did produce Land Before Time as well. But always thought this was a Don Bluth film. Like, it always had a bit of a Don Bluth vibe. But anyway. Now, also turning dirty, we got Clint Eastwood's A Perfect World. It stars Kevin Costner as an escaped convict who takes a young child hostage and attempts to escape on the road with the child. You also had Clint Eastwood playing the role of Texas Ranger in pursuit of the convict. You also had like Laura Dern, Bradley Whitford, and I mean this is not like Clint Eastwood's best work, nothing like that, but it's a really decent flick worth checking out. Kevin Costner is terrific in this. I mean, I don't think he's worked with Clint Eastwood against since, which is disappointing. But Clint Eastwood is always on his game. Definitely one of the most iconic directors, iconic movie stars of all time. A really interesting little flick. If you guys haven't seen it, all right. Now, also turning dirty. I forgot to put this in the description, but another film that turns dirty is a movie called Josh and Sam, which is a road comedy drama starring Noah Flyes, Jacob Turney, and Martha Plimpton. And it's about two young brothers who run away from home due to emotional conflict over the divorce of their parents. Now, this was actually produced by Martin Brest, who you might know directed Beverly Hills Cop, Jilly. He's put out some good stuff, some not so good stuff like Jilly. But this is actually not a little bad road trip film. The chemistry between two brothers are pretty decent. I mean, this is a movie about brotherhood. Very little underrated little gem. So if you guys haven't seen it, I say give that one a go too. It's not a bad flick. But that's pretty much it there. Let me leave you guys. Which of these films stand out to you the most? To me, I'm going to go with Catching Fire. The the 20-year one. I know most people probably say Oldboy. And this is going to be unpopular. I'm just going to say it. The Cat in the Hat stands out to me there. I know that's unpopular to say and everything. Like, people's going to be like, what, you didn't choose Oldboy? I like Oldboy, don't get me wrong. I've always been fascinated more with the Cat in the Hat. So, and 21 grams is not bad either. And Gothika, I'm just not a fan of. All right, and obviously the dirtier one will go to Mrs. Doubtfire because you just can't go wrong with Rob Williams. Anyway, drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Simon signing out.